It's November 6th. This is the Legit Betting Edge podcast, episode number 10. My name is Brian Bonito. I am with my partner, Scott Johnson. Scott, you're in Arizona. How are things this morning?
Great over here, Brian. Doing well. Coming off Thursday night. Thank you. I saw your video. I was on the fence with Colorado State, but I saw your video, so I went ahead and jumped. So I won with Colorado State last night, which was awesome. I did have a little small play on the Utah State. I thought that was a good spot for them, but they're brutal. I mean, I lowered them in my rankings and everything, but I thought maybe Nevada coming off that rivalry game with UNLV might have a little bit of a letdown there. So I had a little small 1-unit bet on Utah State. That went awry. And then I had Green Bay -6. I think that was the easiest money on the board yesterday. I did not see San Francisco being able to stay with them. I did have the under. It was a small bet on the under, and, I lost that one. But I lost the 2 small bets, won the 2 big bets. So it was a good Thursday night, and let's start talking some college football.
Yeah, real quick, shout out how they can get a hold of you on social media, and then I'll crank up my stuff.
All right, yeah. So social media, you can follow me on Twitter at ScojoAZSports. My Instagram is ScojoPicks, and my website, ScojoPicks.com. You can go there. I'm putting content out there. Also, we just started up today. We're going to go ahead and do the 9-bet challenge. I put it on my Twitter page. You can go find it there. But follow me, follow Brian. Go to our YouTube page. Watch the podcast. Smash the like button. And we'll give you more details on what we're doing on with that 9-bet challenge. It's going to be fun.
Scojo is rolling this morning. I saw that tweet, just shot it out before we started shooting this. It's Friday morning. Myself, that's pretty good night you had there last night. Myself, listen, not a bad idea on Utah State, except they're just not good. Nevada crushed them.
No, they're terrible.
But I had my play of the day with Colorado State. I said they might win outright, or I felt that they would, but I take the 3.5. Took the 3.5. They do win outright. And I leaned on the over also. I was chatting with someone else on social media. I didn't play the over, but just was really on target on that game. So I feel real good about going into the weekend now. So we got a bunch of games to review. Why don't we just crank them up, roll through them one by one, and just feel them out? All
right. Well, we're going to start with Friday night. And we're going to start with BYU at Boise State. This is going to be a fun game. BYU is, this is going to be their 8th game. Boise State, this is only going to be their 3rd. I don't know if Boise State's starter is going to be back in there, but their backup looked pretty good against Air Force. And, I see Boise State given points at home, and I went back and looked. And since 2010, they've only been an underdog one time. And that was in 2018 against Fresno State. They ended up winning that game 24-17. So they haven't been dogs a lot at home. But this BYU team is, Zach Wilson, he's definitely got some Heisman talk going, and I think he's going to be in the NFL. He's a really good player. And BYU up front is really good. I like their offensive line. I like their defensive line. I like BYU in this game to cover the 3.5. I think they're just going to have too much power for Boise State, and this only being Boise State's 3rd game. And, if that backup quarterback's in there, I'm going to have to see game time. I know they still haven't announced it, I don't think. But the backup looked pretty good. I watched them against Air Force. But I still lean BYU in this game minus the 3.5. I just think they're going to go in there, and I like them by about a touchdown in this game.
Yeah, and I feel, listen, this BYU team feels different this year. They feel stronger. They're stout. They're resilient, and they win even in games that aren't exciting, even though they didn't cover against Texas San Antonio. But they've been winning in dominant fashion several times, and they've done it week after week after week. Boise State is Boise State, but this isn't Chris Peterson's Boise State. It is the blue turf. It'll be a good fight, but I do agree with you on BYU. I think BYU does get the cover here. I'm not going to play this game. There's better games tomorrow where I'll save my money for, but I do lean BYU, and if I was forced to play it, I definitely would play BYU minus.
All right, so let's go to Saturday, and we'll start with some early games. First one, West Virginia at Texas. West Virginia getting 6.5 at Texas, and I really like this West Virginia team here. They pounded K-State at home, and K-State, they were playing pretty well. West Virginia's gone on the road 2 times. They lost to Oklahoma State. They were in that game until late, and then Texas Tech, they had that game won, and they had that fumble return for Texas Tech late that cost them that game. But they've dominated the statistical categories in every game that they've played. So Texas, they did play. They won at Oklahoma State, but how good is Oklahoma State? How good is, the Big 12 has just been crazy all year long. But this West Virginia team, their defense is a little better than I thought. I thought they were a little fraudulent going into last week. I mean, K-State's offense isn't, anything to write home about. But this West Virginia team, they pretty much dominate the statistics in every game. And I like them to cover this game at Texas. I don't trust Texas I don't trust that defense to stop. Their offense is potent and they can score points. I just don't trust that Texas defense to be able to stop. I actually probably going to bet West Virginia here, take the 6.5, and maybe sprinkle the money line a little bit with West Virginia.
Yeah, I like what you're talking about there. But West Virginia is on the upswing. A couple of years in the doldrums when they came to the Big 12, had to get rid of their coach. They were stale. They're getting a little better. They're playing a little stronger. Texas, on the other hand, I mean, listen, they're a good team. They did come from behind and beat Oklahoma State late last week. They played a strong game. I don't trust them as a 6.5 point favorite, though. I just don't, especially against West Virginia. West Virginia coming off a very impressive win against K-State. And you're right, they did play Oak State tight early in the season. So I look for a competitive game. Texas might win this game. I think 6.5 is plenty. Again, I'm not going to play this game, but I would lean and I would definitely play West Virginia if you force me to make a play.
All right, another game on Monday morning is going to be Michigan at Indiana. Michigan favored by 3 at Indiana, and I don't think you could have been higher or lower on Michigan in 2 weeks. I mean, they looked really good against Minnesota and then just, couldn't beat Michigan State at home. Michigan's won, I think, like the last 25 games in this series, but they're only won 5-1 in the last 6 or 7 games but they've never been this small of a favorite. And Indiana, they got dominated by Penn State. They won that game late with some turnovers and, that questionable call with Penn State. And then they did not look good against Rutgers at all. So I guess it's, which Michigan team shows up here. I think this will probably be a pretty close game. I got to go with Michigan here, though, with if they only got to cover the 3. I think they win this game. I don't think I don't think they're going to go into Indiana and dominate Indiana, but I do think that they can cover this 3. So I'm leaning Michigan here minus the 3.
Yeah, I say 2 things about this game. Number one, I'm not going to play it, but I will give you my strong thoughts on this. I think Michigan wins by 4 probably. Very tight game. I think the total goes under as well. I think we're maybe 27-23 games, something like that, 28-24. I don't know if it's exactly that, but you're going to come in slightly below the number. I feel like Michigan's going to cover this. But, look, if Harbaugh doesn't win this game, what do you do? I mean, you're out.
Yeah.
You got to pack your bags and leave Michigan. I think Michigan bounces back. I think they get their heads out of the proverbial behinds, and I think they play hard, strong, and tough against an Indiana team that is obviously playing with confidence. They're at home. I think they can take Michigan. That's the deal right now. They think they're going to win this game. Indiana does. I think Michigan comes in, plays them stout, maybe a late turnover, and they win by anywhere from 4 to 7 points.
Yep. All right. So let's go to the first Pac-12 of the game. This is going to be an early game. ASU at USC. ASU getting 11, and this is going to be a 9:00 Pacific time start. They're trying to get some. I know they're trying to get some eyes on the East Coast on the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 already suffered one game. They lost Cal and Washington due to COVID. So this is going to be an interesting game. And the banner behind me, ASU. I'm an ASU guy. I'm really close to the program. I got a lot of people that I know in there, and 11 points is a lot, especially without seeing either of these teams play. And I'm telling you right now, ASU is dominating the recruiting in California and Arizona. One of their freshman running backs was the number 5 guy out of Ohio. They took that player from the Big Ten. He didn't go to Michigan, didn't go to Ohio State. He came to Arizona State. So this ASU team is loaded with talent. Now, can it translate to the field? I don't know. But Jaden Daniels, really good quarterback. I'm really interested to see what Herm does. I mean, Herm runs this ASU program like an NFL program. That's how they get these kids to come here. He's got Kevin Mawai. Marvin Lewis is now on the defensive side of the ball for ASU. Derek Hagan, Antonio Pierce, who was a high school coach in California. So he's got a bunch of NFL guys on that staff, and they run it like an NFL program. And I was just listening to a couple people talk on NFL Live about how Brandon Ayuk and Eno Benjamin and all these kids that are going to the NFL, they're having an easier transition because of the way Herm runs this program, like an NFL program. So there's a lot of talent there, but USC always has talent. They're always loaded with talent there. So maybe they are 11 points better than ASU. I'm not going to believe that until I see it. So I'm definitely on ASU here. I don't really like betting on my team. I like to watch the games, but here I just don't. I can't. If you're going to give me 11 points and give me Arizona State, Jaden Daniels and Herm Edwards, they love these big games. They play really well in these games. They beat Michigan State at Michigan State. They beat Oregon last year. They were tight games. They love this big game. Jaden Daniels is a big game quarterback, so I love ASU plus the 11 here. It's going to be one of my bigger bets of the day. Is ASU plus the 11.
Herm Edwards isn't really a schematic guy, so he brings in players that played the game, and he puts coaches in position to help him win. He's going to make, obviously, the decisions on the sideline, but he plays to win the games. So you got 11 points. That's a lot of points. I haven't seen anything, though. I haven't seen one down, so I can't bet this game. But again, Herm Edwards has a team on the rise. I would lean ASU plus the points. Money line, shoot, I have no clue. But I'll be interested to find out, especially if they're both playing early. These kids don't usually get out of bed by 8 o'clock. So, it'll be interesting to see, and we'll see how it rolls for the Pac-12.
Yeah, and another thing about that is, the ASU's programs, they knew that this game was coming. They knew that they were going to be playing that early game to start. So they've been practicing like that for 3 weeks. So I know their body clocks are going to be used to that. Now, playing a game that early, I don't think they probably played a game that early since Pop Warner. But and the other thing is practice. ASU, because of the COVID restrictions, has had several more practices than USC. So, are they more in sync, more in sync with each other? Yeah. So that's why I'm going to jump on ASU minus the 11 here, is just because USC might be that talented and be able to, out-talent this ASU team. I'm just going to go with I don't believe it, and I think ASU is doing the right things. I know nothing about USC other than they're always loaded with talent. So I'm on ASU here minus 11. So, yeah, we'll see what happens in this game. So let's go to the biggest cocktail party anybody ever talks about, and that's Florida at Georgia. Florida getting 3.5. Has this line moved to 4.5? I thought I'd seen some 4.5s out there.
I think you'll see it move back up, as tomorrow comes into play. It dropped down. Some big money came in on Florida. Let me just crank this up start on this. Florida, look, they come out and they blow out Missouri last week, play very strong. They win in a game strong that they're expected to win. So when you see that, you feel good about that Florida team. When you talk about Georgia, after licking their wounds after a loss to Alabama, came in and they struggled at Kentucky. Now Kentucky's got a pretty good defense, but I figured they should have had a few more points than that. So I'm leaning Florida here. I'm definitely going to take a look at that early in the morning, see where that line goes. If I can get it back up over 4.5, I've just been looking at it all week. And but I definitely feel like Florida's the right side in this game. I think if you take the points, even if you lose, you take the points because you got the value with the better team. I think they're playing better right now.
No, and I agree. And Georgia's beat up on that defensive side. They're going to be missing 2 of their better defensive players and 1 in the secondary. So and not only that, I just don't think Georgia can hang with Florida offensively. I mean, they're a ball control team. They like to and their quarterback Stetson. I think he's just he's a good game manager. Doesn't make a lot of mistakes, but he's not going to. They just don't do a lot on offense for me. So I really like Florida in this game. So
for Georgia to win, it has to be a low-scoring game, a very low-scoring game.
Yeah, because I don't think. Yeah, and that they proved that in the Alabama game. They were in that game the first half, but once Alabama put the gas pedal down, they just could not keep up. So if Florida's moving up and down the field early on these guys, I mean, I know Kirby Smart. He's got the number of Mullins and stuff, but this year I just that Georgia defense is going to keep them in games. I don't doubt that. I just don't think they can score as much as Florida can score in this game. So I actually like Florida to win this game outright. So and then our next game is going to be, Maryland at Penn State. Maryland getting 25 at Penn State. I didn't really look at this game a lot. I know Penn State, they played Ohio State, and Ohio State's obviously the best team in this conference by far. They did lose that game at Indiana, but they did dominate that game. I mean, so if you look at the stat sheet, they dominate, but they just, they made some mistakes in the fourth quarter. And then, you can debate that 2-point conversion at the end. Did they win? Did they lose? But they should have never been in that situation. And then Maryland comes out against Minnesota last week, and Tua's younger brother, just went off on Minnesota, but that Minnesota defense is really young. So this game is kind of screwy for me, but 25 points. And, I saw Maryland put up 44 again or 45 against, Minnesota last week, and Minnesota, they're probably above average in the Big Ten. So I think Maryland's going to score points here. I don't know that Penn State can cover this 25. So I'm not going to do anything on this game. But if I was, I'm probably going to lean Maryland and take the points.
Now, listen, I'm not a big spread guy, or I haven't been in past history. I see a 25-point spread. I look at a game and be like, can they do it? When you look at Maryland and the whole Minnesota debacle, right? Minnesota blows the game, just to score against Michigan, right? But then Michigan can't score, all right? They can't score against Michigan State. So I think the Maryland victory over Minnesota is misleading. I think Minnesota's just discombobulated right now on defense. I think Penn State goes home and torches Maryland. I think they win. I think they win by 4 touchdowns, maybe 5. I think Penn State gets well into the 40s. I don't think Maryland. I don't think they get to 20. I don't think they get to 20. I think maybe Maryland hits 17 if they're lucky, maybe 14. I think Penn State totally dominates this game. They come out and they're going to get the victory, and they're going to keep pouring it on. Their frustration and hostility over the last couple of weeks. Maryland's going to be a victim. They're going to be victimized. And Maryland, it's such a satisfying win last week for Maryland. Those kids are like, yeah, we get
fat and happy.
Yeah,
fat
absolutely.
And
you're about to get swatted down like a fly. So, that's what I think. I think Penn State does that this week. I think this is one of those games. I like Penn State. I'm going to play it minus 24.5. I already have it. And so we roll like that. That's the first game that we've talked about that I've actually already made a bet on.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we're doing this show because I wouldn't touch this game, but after listening to because I haven't really looked at it, I just kind of looked at who they played but I haven't really gotten into the numbers. I just know that the Big Ten, like you said, Michigan, the defenses and stuff. But yeah, Penn State, they moved the ball against Ohio State. Penn State's a good team. They've just had a couple of really bad weeks, and yeah, you're probably right. So I'm off this game. You might have talked me into it though. I might. I might look at Penn State there. So, all right, let's go back to the Big 12.
Go back and crunch those numbers.
Yeah. Oklahoma State at K-State. K-State burned me last week, big time. That was actually my play of the week last week. I thought they were going to go into West Virginia because, like I said, I thought West Virginia, just looking at their defensive numbers was a little overrated, and I was wrong. That was a bad read on my part. And the Big 12 can't get out of their way. If these two teams win, this is going to be a big game in the Big 12. But both teams lost. Oklahoma State lost to Texas, and they're going into K-State here. And I'm probably not. I don't know. I don't know how to say this the proper way and use the right language. K-State burned me big time last week, but I just K-State at home, and I think everybody can have a bad week. I don't see Oklahoma State coming in there and covering this 12.5 against K-State. And in fact, I think K-State might even turn it around. And, is Oklahoma State, I know you always are talking about, the form that the teams are in. Does Oklahoma State, are they hanging their heads? Is it a big, exhale? Oh my gosh, we're, feeling sorry for ourselves, and they walk in there and K-State, actually pulls the upset here. I don't know, but I like the 12.5. If you're going to give me 12.5 and give me K-State, this is one of the games I've already bet on, and I've got Kansas State plus the 12.5, and I did actually sprinkle one little unit on the money line there.
Generally speaking, on a game like this, so we'll go back to just something I've observed. I observed this in baseball a lot. So, team leads the whole game, and at the end, the visiting team crunches ahead of you, and then the home team hits the road. Generally speaking, if you've had the lead the whole game and you lose at the very end, you come back strong because you were playing great fundamental football the entire game. You just happen to slip at the end. You tend to tighten things up and have a great game the next time. I think Oklahoma hits the road here at Kansas State. 12.5 is kind of a tricky number. I've seen it before. You don't really know what to make it. So it's not on any key anything. But right. I haven't placed a bet on this, but I'm kind of banking on Oak State coming out, and Kansas State just kind of – if Kansas State would have played a stronger game against West Virginia, I might be on your side of this. They just – when you quit like that, can you go home and get up? If you didn't put a strong game in play and now you go home, can you – unless you fought to the end, which they did not, West Virginia dominated them. So I got Oklahoma State coming in and winning, maybe by 17 points. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm going to look at it a little further. I haven't placed a bet on this. Like I love Penn State, but I'm leaning strongly on Oak State covering that 12.5. And again, I don't like big spreads. I'd rather take value in a dog. Kansas State's in a good spot if you like dogs. But again, They just didn't put enough effort for me to back them this week. They just didn't. And is that a coaching thing? And do the coaches come home and feel sorry for themselves? You know what I mean? And then,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And then you have another mistake before you get back on track. I don't know. I'm just saying that's my thoughts on this game.
Yeah, and like I said, I threw up in my mouth a little bit when I'm saying I'm looking at Kansas State again after that performance last week. I watched that whole game, and I was just I came out with the same, what you just said. It looked like they just like shut it down in the second quarter. Like, okay, well, we're not going to win this game, so we're not going to try. That's what it did look like to me. I just, K-State. I think I'm gonna give them another chance here. Like I said, I've looked at everything. I'm gonna jump on them. I'm gonna take the 12 and a half. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. But if they let me down again, I'll never look at K-State again. And I'm going to tell Kelly in Vegas she could just pound sand because I know that she loves K-State. Right. So, all right. So let's go to Texas A&M at South Carolina. These are two teams. Texas A&M, they did beat Florida at home, and they looked really good. And South Carolina has started to kind of fade after that win against Auburn. They had a big win at home against Auburn, and then this last couple of games, it just kind of, look like an old South Carolina team. So I'm not doing anything on this game. I lean Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M is a tough team. I know they played a really, like I said, they played a really good game against Florida, came back and won that game. I look for them to maybe, win this game by a couple touchdowns, but I couldn't get a feel on this game at all. So I lean Texas A&M, but I'm kind of off this game altogether.
Understandable. South Carolina went into LSU and got trounced. Then LSU leaves and goes to play Auburn, which South Carolina destroyed, and they get destroyed. So you're looking at the uneven emotion of teams. So South Carolina, they're playing well this year, but they're just not a winning culture yet. So there was bound to be a letdown when you go hit the road after you beat Auburn after 100 years of losing to Auburn. And then they took a week off. Now I think they're revved up now. A&M last week, where they were leading pretty strong on Arkansas. They went up winning by 11. They didn't cover that spread. And just be honest, A&M streaky team. South Carolina is stout when they dig in. They can hold it. They'll give up some points, but I think they're stout enough to stay inside the number on this game. Now, am I going to play it? 10 is very tempting because it's. Last I saw it was 8.5, 8. I haven't looked at it for a couple of days, but very tempting to play South Carolina coming off the bye. A&M is a public favorite right now, and I just think South Carolina bounces back with grit and determination after the LSU game. I lean strongly South Carolina plus the points in this game.
Okay, yeah, I just don't have a feeling on that game at all because exactly what you said with Texas A&M, I do think they're very streaky. So. This is a game I'll probably just watch and see what happens there. So, all right, well, the big game and, one of the last games of the night is going to be Clemson at Notre Dame. It's 5.5 right now. I don't know. The last time I looked, it was still at 5.5. And they're a 5.5 favorite going to Notre Dame, and they don't have Trevor Lawrence. So I wonder what this line would have been with Trevor Lawrence, maybe 2 touchdowns. I don't know. But Notre Dame, their recent history, they just struggle in these games. And Book, he's been good this year, but he struggles in these types of games, and Clemson is just loaded with talent. So can Clemson, if this game was a touchdown, I probably wouldn't even look at this game. And I think Clemson last week was probably really vanilla. I think the quarterback's going to run a lot more in this game. So I might lean towards the under a little bit. I don't know, but I like I said, I like the number of 5.5. I think Clemson wins this game by at least a touchdown. I think Clemson was very, very vanilla on offense last week. They got away with that game. I know that they were, down early. They had to come back, but I just think Clemson's got too much talent. I don't think Notre Dame, and with their recent history in these games, they haven't won. I think I saw something on ESPN where the last time they won a game like this, a top 5 game, it was the first ESPN Road Show game back in 1990, whatever it was, when they played Notre Dame, or Notre Dame played Florida State. It was one of the, I think it was a Bowden, what's the old coach's Notre Dame
Bobby
coach?
Bowden.
Lou Holtz.
Bobby Bowden, Lou Holtz. Yeah, that's great.
That was the first. That was the first
Lou
ESPN Road. With the show where they go on the road. So that was the last time Notre Dame won one of these games. So I think I'm going to roll with Clemson here, 5.5. I like it under a touchdown. I think Clemson. It might be close early, but I think Clemson will just pull away.
Listen, here's my thought. First of all, the under looks tasty because what we have a playoff last year, 30-3 was the final score in the playoff, and that's with
Yep.
Trevor Lawrence, right?
Yep.
And so we don't have Trevor Lawrence now. Notre Dame, with Brian Kelly, and we're talking about Harbaugh earlier. Let's just a quick conversation about Brian Kelly. If he doesn't win this game without Trevor Lawrence, I mean, does anybody have faith that he can win any big games? Honestly. Yeah. So we're talking about the same thing. I think there'll be some decisions being made about Brian Kelly should he not be able to win this game. Now, that being said, look, Notre Dame's this is their shot. They're at home. No Trevor Lawrence. Clemson's reeling. They don't have the dynamic playmaker, under center. They still have Etienne. He's a beast. You shut him down a little bit and score a few points, you might have a shot in the fourth quarter. Does that happen? I don't know. I'm looking more to the under here, under 50.5. I think Clemson's going to shut Notre Dame down because they know they need to shut Notre Dame down. I think Notre Dame is going to be able to shut Clemson down because Clemson does have Trevor Lawrence. And I think Brian Kelly is going to pull all the stops out. They're number 4 in the nation. Look, you should be able to stay inside 5.5. You should be able to stay inside 5.5 if you have no Trevor Lawrence. If you don't, Brian Kelly, you better pack your bags and get out.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything you said. I don't have any faith in him at all. I just don't have any faith in no. I agree with everything you just said. I just don't think he can do it. I don't think they can pull it. Yeah, I just don't think they can pull it off.
Has Brian Kelly won a big game in Notre Dame since he's been there?
Nope, not that I can remember. Yeah,
no. He's got them to the national championship. He got pounded by Alabama. Every time he gets there to a game that's consequential, like he just doesn't show up. But again, this is without Trevor Lawrence. I would lean Notre Dame with the points, but I'm definitely leaning under the 50.5. I think it's a tight, low-scoring game. Does Clemson cover the spread? I would lean Notre Dame. Am I going to bet it? No. I'm going to watch it, though. I'm going to watch that game.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So it should be a fun slate of college football. And before we leave, just remember my Twitter feed, @ScoJoAZ Sports. I put the 9-bet challenge up there today. I put 4 games. Vote for it. Retweet it. Let's get as many votes as we can. We're going to run the 9-bet challenge. And to be part of the 9-bet challenge, follow me, follow Brian @my_bankroll, and go to Legit Betting Edge podcast on YouTube. Subscribe. Yep.
Punch the like button.
Yep. And just get us as much exposure. We have fun doing this. Me and Brian love doing it. We love talking sports. We love talking, about what we know and what we can provide. So again, go to my Twitter feed @ScoJoAZ Sports, my website, scojopicks.com. You can go there. I'm putting content on there as much as I can, and help us grow. We appreciate it. Anything that you can do to help us.
Yeah, we'd appreciate anything you can do to help us, and we'll do everything we can do to help you. You let us know how we can help you. We'll do that. Subscribe. Retweet. Follow me @my_bankroll, and we will see you in episode 11 next time.